Welcome back, everyone. Today, I'm going to be providing you guys my thoughts on Intro to Nietzsche by Dr. Jordan Peterson on the Peterson Academy. So, I recently did a video talking about my experiences with the Academy so far, and that video has been doing really well for me. So, since you guys have been watching and I appreciate it, I will fully fledge out my thoughts on Intro to Nietzsche here. I'll talk about the course, what the course is, how is it an Intro to Nietzsche, what does the course go over. I won't get into too much of what I was taught because I don't want to spoil it for you guys. I'm not here to reiterate what he was saying, but I'll go over the course. I'll go over the quizzes. What are the quizzes like? How difficult are they? Are they worth it? I'll go over kind of the general aspects of the course. Do I think the course is worth it overall? And at the very end of the video, I'll go over a moment that happened in the second lecture that kind of got me teared up and just sold me on the course and made it golden for me. So the course is an Intro to Nietzsche. I think anybody can take this course. If you haven't read a stitch of Nietzsche in your life, you can take this course and you won't be lost. Jordan Peterson provides everything that he talks about on screen. If he goes over a quote of Nietzsche, you'll see the quote in smoke behind him. You memorize those quotes or write them down because they'll pop up later on the quizzes. But not like you have to memorize the whole quote, but you'll get quizzed on what Nietzsche's saying later. So hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Make sure you're paying attention. But yeah, you can take this course and not have read any Nietzsche. You could take this course and have read a ton of Nietzsche and still find it incredibly engaging. I'm somebody who got into Nietzsche when I was 16 or 17 years old, when I was an atheist kid. And I thought I understood Nietzsche at the time. I definitely did not. Since then, I've reread him a couple times, and I actually reread all of Nietzsche about 6 or 8 months ago in preparation for this course. I don't recommend reading Nietzsche that way. If you're getting into Nietzsche for the first time, take your time with him. Read him with Dostoevsky at the same time, maybe. I'll talk a little bit more about why you should do that later, but take your time with Nietzsche. Spread him out over a year or two and just go easy with it, because the subtitle to this course is How to Philosophize with a Hammer, and what that means is Nietzsche's philosophy is so damn dense. It's like he's philosophizing with a hammer. Like, to pull that stuff apart takes time. You could read a paragraph of Nietzsche and spend your whole day chewing on it and never fully digest it. So it takes time to work through the thoughts that he put out. And this course goes over Beyond Good and Evil, which is the book that I would start with if you're getting into Nietzsche. It's probably the most accessible. On the counter side to that, to contrast it, the most difficult book is probably Thus Spoke Zarathustra, so I would save that for last. Now, that is my favorite work of Nietzsche, and most people who read Nietzsche, that does end up becoming their favorite work because of what it is. I won't talk about it today because then we'll go down a rabbit hole that'll take forever, but Thus Spoke Zarathustra is a masterpiece, and yeah, work your way up to that. Start with Beyond Good and Evil, and that's what this course starts with, is Beyond Good and Evil. So obviously he doesn't go through the whole book. That would take 1,000 lectures to do, but he takes about 3 or 4 paragraphs from Nietzsche every lecture, and he breaks them down. He pulls them apart. He gets the gum on his fingers, and he pulls them apart, which is awesome. I don't think that there's any other lecturer or professor that I've ever come across, and I've watched quite a few on Nietzsche, that understands Nietzsche as well as Dr. Jordan Peterson does. He has a very deep understanding of Nietzsche, and it's awesome because he doesn't keel over and he doesn't bend the knee to kind of the ideas of Nietzsche that he doesn't agree with. Maybe a lesser professor would just bend down to Nietzsche and bow to the superior intellect, but Jordan Peterson doesn't do that. He'll take the ideas that he doesn't agree with. He'll tell you exactly why he doesn't agree with them or why they don't work. Or he'll tell you how other philosophers have expanded or improved on those ideas since Nietzsche. He'll talk about Socrates. He'll talk about Hegel and Schopenhauer. And maybe my only critique about the course is that he could talk a little bit more about Schopenhauer and Hegel, being that they influenced Nietzsche's thoughts so much, but he still went over them. And he brought in, Freud and Jung, which I know those are more psychologists, but he's, if Jordan Peterson's talking, he's probably going to talk about Jung at some point. So he brings in all these thinkers that are all legitimately connected, and he criticizes Nietzsche where he needs to criticize him, and he takes other ideas of Nietzsche that are maybe misunderstood or underrated, and he'll pull those apart and expand on them in very interesting ways. And he'll take examples from history and stuff, and it's brilliant. I don't think I've ever seen anybody lecture on Nietzsche as well as Dr. Jordan Peterson. So if you need an introduction to Nietzsche, I really don't think there's a better introduction than this one. A couple things that I like that he did. Again, I'm not going to go over everything that he did in the course because you need to go watch it for yourself, pay the money yourself. I'm not here to reiterate everything he said. But a couple things that he did that I really liked is in the first lecture, during the back half of it, for the last 20 to 30 minutes, he spends the time, dotting out the timeline. He puts pins in the timeline of Nietzsche's life. He goes from his birth to his death. And I'm not talking about things that happened in Nietzsche's life, although he does go over that to a degree. He's putting pins of like things that happened in the world. So like Charles Darwin putting out The Origin of Species, or Dostoevsky or Tolstoy releasing a certain novel, or Tchaikovsky coming out with a piece of music. Like he puts all these things on the timeline so you can understand not just like what Nietzsche was thinking at the time and the new things that were happening in the world for him, and how that was affecting his philosophy, but what the times were like for the people around him, because he was criticizing society around him and what it would eventually turn into. And for him to, map out that timeline so you can place yourself in history along with those people, it helps so much. I think it's incredible that he did that. Basically, any course talking about a historical figure should do that. I recently reread Battle Cry for Freedom, which is a book about the Civil War. And each year that they go into, they take a moment to kind of lay out everything that happened in that year, all the new things that were released either in music or in books or inventions that came out during that time. And it helps put you in the history. And I really, really appreciated that. So that's something that happened in the first lecture that I really liked. And I'll go over the quizzes, and then I'll talk about what happened in that second lecture for me. So I'll stop talking about the course for now. Needless to say, I thought it was worth my money, and I thought it's an amazing intro to Nietzsche. I really don't know what he could have done any better. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was dense, and because there's nobody raising their hands, there's no breaking in the train of thought from the start of the hour to the end of the hour. It's dense, man. Like it's a real university course. At least it feels like that for me. And I feel like he can cram more into just 8 lectures than say another university could in 20, with, people raising their hands and professors showing up a little bit sluggish or whatnot. Jordan Peterson, every single lecture is just on point, alert, awake, and just from start to finish is just go, 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 go. Everything's so dense. I love it. It's how I want to learn. So I've had a great experience with the course so far. Now, he did say at the very end of the 8th course that he isn't complete. He isn't completely done going through Beyond Good and Evil. So he's going to add on 4 more lectures to make it 12 in total, which I think is a perfect length for an intro to Nietzsche, and to kind of not fully cover Beyond Good and Evil. Like I said, to fully do that, it would take like 1,000 lectures. But this course so far has been absolutely perfect. So let's go over the quizzes. So the quizzes for me, I did really well in the first 3. I got 100%. You could take each quiz right after the lecture is over. I believe that's how it works. You might be able to take the quiz before the lecture, but I don't know why you would do that. There's information on the quiz of stuff that's directly mentioned in the lecture that you couldn't really figure out unless you saw the lecture. So definitely watch the lecture, then take the quiz, and take the quiz right after. I would not recommend watching all the lectures, then doing all the quizzes, because you'll forget what was mentioned where, and you'll get things wrong that you shouldn't have gotten wrong. So take the lecture, take the quiz immediately after. Like I said, I did pretty well in the first 3 quizzes, and then they got progressively more difficult, which was great. I liked that. I liked the scaling up. For it to get more difficult. Now, there was a quiz 5, the percentage of, my percentage and the peer average dropped off by like 5 or 10%. It dipped quite a bit. So what I'm thinking there is that there was just a bad question on question 5, because immediately when I saw it, I'm like, I don't think this is a good question. And then, of course, I got it wrong. So yeah, they might correct that in the future. No promises. I'm not basing that off of anything, but that was maybe my only issue with the course, is there seems to be a faulty question on quiz 5. But besides that, everything else about the quizzes I loved. They're 10 multiple choice questions, which is good. It helps test your knowledge for the course, but there's no final exam yet. That still says coming soon. I assume that'll come out after the next 4 lectures get added. But I hope on the final exam there's some written aspects, because I want to write down my thoughts on the course, and I want somebody to receive that and to engage with it and give me honest feedback, in a written form, rather than just saying, oh, you got question A wrong and it should have been B instead of C. That's great for testing your knowledge throughout the lectures, but for the final exam, I need like a written portion. So hopefully we get that. I'm sure that will come, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the quizzes. I thought all the quizzes were great. And yeah, I'll go over kind of what happened in that second lecture. So I'm not going to go over, like I said, I'm not going to go over everything that happened in every lecture, because you guys need to go and you need to watch it yourselves if you want to pay the money and take this course. But in the second half of the second lecture, he does a reading from Crime and Punishment. Now, Crime and Punishment is a book that I was put onto by Dr. Jordan Peterson, and it's his favorite book of all time. It quickly became my favorite book of all time, and I've given it to quite a few people, and it's become their favorite book of all time as well. So it's a deeply, deeply moving and impactful book for me, and he read a passage from it. For those of you who have read it, it's The Beating of the Mayor. Now, for those of you who haven't read it, I won't go into any more detail than that. Please go read this book if you haven't read it. If you haven't read Crime and Punishment and you're watching this video, put that to the top of your queue. Go pick it up tomorrow and read that book. It's life-changing, like for real. So he's reading this passage of The Beating of the Mayor, and it's heartbreaking. Every time I read it, I start to tear up. And he was tearing up just trying to get through it. You know, his voice started cracking and stuff, and you could see people in the audience were pretty down and maybe crying themselves. And yeah, I was starting to tear up on my couch. It was a deeply moving reading of a Dostoevsky passage that that parallels with Nietzsche's life perfectly. Now, I won't spoil that. You guys have to watch the lecture to understand how it parallels with Nietzsche's life. But man, was it a powerful image to read that out. And I know he's just reading a passage, but for him to have that emotional connection with the audience and to have his students have that emotional impact watching his lectures is like, that's something I never got from university. And I know I was only there for a year, and you guys can let me know if you had, you know, special professors who made you cry in class, hopefully in a good way. But I've never had a teacher in my entire life emotionally move me like that in a class where I was like literally crying because of what was being read to me. It was a powerful moment, and from then on I was hooked. I was like, I'm doing every single lecture like in the next 2 days, and I'm finishing this course, and now I'm sad it's over, and now I really want the next 4 lectures because I thought this was an amazing course. Like, I can't lie, I thought, even though I've read Nietzsche, even though I've watched other lectures on him, even though I've watched documentaries on him, I still found like I learned a lot. And I don't think that there's another professor out there, like I said, that plays with Nietzsche as well as Jordan Peterson does. He pulls him apart in such interesting ways. So I was very, very grateful for this course. I learned a lot. Yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on it so far. So I don't know if I sold anybody on taking it. If I did, let me know down in the comments. If you're planning on taking it now, let me know. And let me know how it goes. Come back here and we'll chat it out, because it was a great course, man. Oh, man, it was so good. But yeah, those are my thoughts. If you have taken the course, let me know down below. What did you think of it? Did you think it was a little bit basic or introductory, or did you feel like it was surface level, or did you find it super engaging and deep and powerful like I did? You know, let me know down in the comments. I want to hear more from you guys. And yeah, those are my thoughts. I'm planning on doing Symbolism and Christianity next by Jonathan Pageau. I think I'm on lecture 4 now, and that one's only a 6-lecture course, so I will do a video on that once I'm done it. It's been great so far. He's not as verbally agile as Jordan Peterson in some ways, but I love Jonathan Pageau, and when he gets going, man, he hits you with revelation after revelation, kind of like Jordan Peterson does when he's on a roll. So I love listening to Jonathan Pageau, and I will bring my thoughts on that course next. So yeah, that's all I have for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, it means the world to me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps boost this channel in the algorithm. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.